Okay, so as you know, our focus in this class is on the study of social movements. I've previously defined these movements as being formal or informal group actions that focus on a single political or social issue in order to bring about some form of positive change in society. It won't be controversial for me to say that this world isn't perfect. Politicians act badly, financial institutions fail, and consumers mistrust companies. But a couple of social movements have the potential to solve these issues and bring lasting benefits to society. Which two movements? The first is the global Right to Know movement. The second is the growing trend for transparency, or being open. These two ideas might seem different, but for me, they're like opposite sides of the same coin. Okay, so let's look at both movements in more detail. The Right to Know movement began back in the 1960s after the publication of Silent Spring by conservationist Rachel Carson. After this book came out, citizens began to ask questions about the environment. They wanted to know what industry and government were doing. They wanted the right to ask questions and get answers. Now, transparency. We know its usual meaning, right? A transparent object allows light to pass through it so that what is behind it can be clearly seen. Well, as a social movement, transparency means that organizations are open. They freely share information about what they have done and why. To sum up, Right to Know focuses on what people want organizations to disclose. Transparency is about what organizations choose to disclose. As I said, they're like opposite sides of the same coin. Okay, so let's move on to examples of how these movements have led to positive change. Back in 2004, a journalist named Heather Brooke began requesting information about politicians in the UK. She wanted to know about their expenses. Her requests weren't allowed at first, but finally the highest UK court ruled that citizens had the right to know and shouldn't be kept in the dark. When the details were made public, it was clear some politicians had claimed expenses they shouldn't have claimed. This revelation made people in the UK angry and ready for change. This feeling led to greater levels of public debate about this important issue, as well as a more transparent procedure for claiming expenses. Okay, so another example is the case of the global financial crisis of 2008. Iceland was affected by this crisis more than any other country. Its three main banks collapsed. The value of its currency fell by half. The stock market lost more than 90% of its value. And levels of inflation and foreign debt rose dramatically. Investigations showed that various people in government and the financial industry had made mistakes, failed to take action, perhaps even acted in illegal ways. Not surprisingly, when the people of Iceland heard these revelations, they wanted more transparency. As a result, politicians in Iceland felt that perhaps public data should be openly available. And in 2010, a former comedian was elected as mayor of Reykjavik, Iceland's capital, after promising political transparency. So what about business? A survey from 2014 showed that at least 40% of North American consumers haven't got much trust in companies. The fast food industry is a good example because many consumers think this kind of food isn't healthy or environmentally friendly. Well, McDonald's, the biggest fast food company of them all, thinks transparency might be a solution. In 2012, it set up a website to give personal answers to any questions about the firm's food. And the questions can be pretty direct, from what's the healthiest food item on the menu to why doesn't the food go bad. This transparency initiative only applies to McDonald's Canada, but I think it's a step in the right direction. If McDonald's, a company that isn't known for being open, is willing to be open with the public to end mistrust, it shows that the right to know and transparency movements are bringing about positive social change.